Good evening and welcome. Tonight I'm going to be reading to you this history magazine article about Stonehenge. Excuse the glare. There's nothing I can do about it because this paper is so glossy now. It's going to be glaring no matter how I adjust the lights, and believe me, I've tried. But this article was chosen by my channel members to read. It was chosen by Craig, Luna, Smulla, and Cricket. Thank you so much for picking this article. And if you watching this would like to pick future history magazine articles, you can click the join button right down below. Or if you're on mobile and there is no join button, you can click the first link in the description box. That'll take you to my channel members page. It's only 99 cents a month. And you get all kinds of goodies, like you get exclusive videos where you guys get to pick the topics. You get your name in every video. You get to watch every single video early. My channel members are going to see this super early because I've been on vacation. I'm coming back the day that this video uploads. So they have already seen this video like a week in advance. So if you want to get in on that, I would love to have you join. Let's talk about Stonehenge. I've actually been to Stonehenge and I pulled up my photos that I took because back when I was there, I had a little disposable camera because our phones couldn't take photos back then. But here's the photo I took of Stonehenge. In the back I wrote, "Wow." I covered up my friend's face, my bestie's face. But here's us at Stonehenge. And look at this caption I wrote. It says, Jen is A, overwhelmed by Stonehenge. B, very annoyed by the wind. C, even more annoyed by the fly population of Stonehenge. D, going to feel sorry in a few hours due to excessive sunburn of the shoulders. Answer, all of the above, but mostly A. Very good caption I wrote back then. But yeah, there's me at Stonehenge when I was 17, and yeah, I got terribly sunburned. Terribly sunburned. That says dancing at Stonehenge. And I pulled up this picture of me at Avebury just for fun, because I've talked about a couple times how I've been to Avebury, and I found out after I took this photo that I'm pretty sure this was like the human sacrifice stone, so kind of eerie that I sat down on it. But yeah, that's my proof that I've been to Stonehenge, and I loved it, except for how windy it was and how hot it was. It was so hot. It was like in the middle of summer. And yeah, a lot of flies there for whatever reason. But let's read about it. Here we go. Stonehenge is one of the world's great prehistoric monuments, built over 4,500 years ago on Salisbury Plain. Although not the largest of 1,300 prehistoric stone circles across Great Britain and Ireland, Stonehenge is the most elaborate and truly exceptional. Unlike all the others, its megalithic stones were not sourced from the immediate vicinity, but from far away. The shaping and raising of 4-ton lintels on top of uprights are also unique features when compared to other sites. Why it was built has long been a mystery. In 1130, Henry of Huntingdon wrote that nobody knew who had built it or what it was for. Now, new archaeological excavations and scientific methods, such as isotopic and genetic analyses, are revealing answers to our questions. Stonehenge's 5 stages of construction span the end of the Stone Age and the beginning of the Bronze Age. Its first stage was built shortly after 3000 BCE by people of the Neolithic or New Stone Age, descendants of the farmers who arrived in Britain 1,000 years earlier. Stonehenge started out as a circular ditched cremation cemetery that included a series of wooden posts and a circle of small standing stones known as bluestones brought from Wales. 400 years later, huge stones called sarsens were erected as uprights and lintels, giving Stonehenge the general form that it has retained to this day. At that time, Britain was on the cusp of adopting metals such as copper and gold. This area's Copper Age lasted only 300 years, until 2200 BCE. But a third stage of building work took place in this period, involving rearrangement of some of the bluestones. The Copper Age was replaced by the Bronze Age, when Stonehenge went through two more stages of construction. The fourth stage, around 2100 BCE, saw further rearrangement of the bluestones, and the fifth stage, around 1800 to 1500 BCE, involved the digging of two concentric rings of pits outside the stone circle, although these were left unfilled. Stonehenge has a solstitial axis. It faces northeast toward the summer solstice sunrise, and in the opposite direction, to the southwest, it is aligned toward the winter solstice sunset. This alignment has led some to think of the circle as a prehistoric observatory or calendar. Such solstitial orientations were built into some of the largest megalithic tombs in Great Britain and Ireland, such as Newgrange, dated earlier than Stonehenge, where the winter morning's sun's rays illuminate the tomb's burial chamber. The association of eternal movements of the sun and of the moon with the dead is also found at Stonehenge. First constructed around 2900 BCE as a stone circle with an enclosing bank and outer ditch, Stonehenge started off as a cemetery. The cremated remains of probably more than 100 people were buried there over the next 600 years. It was the largest cemetery of its time in Britain, one of a small number of formative henges in which an earth bank was built inside an enclosing ditch. Early bluestone burials. Some of the first people buried at Stonehenge lived far to the west. It was from there, in the Preseli Hills of West Wales, that some 80 of Stonehenge's standing stones were brought, a distance of 175 miles. Although each of these megaliths weighed an average of 2 tons, moving them must have been a remarkable feat. Make sure you guys can see it all. Okay. 43 bluestones survive at Stonehenge, formed of different types of volcanic and sandstone rocks. 2 of the outcrops from which they originated have been identified and investigated. One for spotted dolerite at Carngadog. Oh, no idea how to pronounce that. There's some more Welsh coming up. And the other for rhyolite at Crag Rossifellin, both in the Preseli area. Stone tools such as wedges, used to lever the monolithic pillars off their outcrops, are among the evidence left by quarry workers around 3000 BCE. Whether the bluestones were first set up in a stone circle in Preseli is still uncertain, but dismantled stone circles, megalithic tombs, and large enclosures reveal that this part of Wales was an important regional center for ceremonies and gatherings. Moving the bluestones nearly 200 miles to Salisbury Plain reveals the importance that these monoliths held for Neolithic people. For a society without gold or silver, the bluestones must have had high value as symbols of identity and belonging. Moving them might have been an act of trophy-taking by the people of Salisbury Plain, or, as suggested by the isotopic results from the people buried at Stonehenge, The Bluestones were brought from Wales by communities moving to the plain to make their claim there. Either way, the act of transporting the stones has to have involved thousands and been a massive collective effort, perhaps as an attempt to unite the peoples of these two distant regions. There are clues as to why Salisbury Plain was a special place. It had one of the greatest concentrations of Neolithic burial mounds, known as long barrows, anywhere in Britain. These were built 400 to 800 years before Stonehenge was even started, and indicate that this was a place of ancestral significance. Furthermore, Stonehenge's circular enclosure was built at the southern end of a natural landform, a series of parallel fissures formed by freezing and thawing during the last ice age. Coincidentally, this landform happens to be aligned on the solstitial axis. Neolithic people must have recognized this remarkable phenomenon in which the land and heavens appeared in cosmic harmony, because they built a ceremonial avenue along its axis. This avenue leads out of Stonehenge to the northeast, toward the summer solstice sunrise, for a third of a mile before heading east toward the River Avon. There it culminates at the site of a former stone circle, originally built of bluestones, and thus known as Blue Stonehenge. Facing the sun. The regard for solstice alignments is a special feature of Stonehenge and its surrounding monuments, so much so that this must have been a key reason for locating the circle there. This hallowed spot may have formed an axis mundi, or center of the world, for the Neolithic people of southern Britain. Their ancestors originated in the Middle East, where farming began around 12,000 years ago and settled along the Mediterranean coast, mixing their genes with local communities of hunter-gatherers along the way. They searched western and northern France before crossing to Britain around 6,000 years ago. Their genes and their pottery styles reveal geographical differences among these incoming farmers as they settled in their new island home. The people who settled in Western England, Wales, and Ireland present different genetic and cultural identities compared to those in Eastern England and Scotland. Salisbury Plain lay between these two groupings. From 3700 BCE onward, this liminal zone on Salisbury Plain became a meeting place for groups of hundreds and thousands. People came from miles around to feast nearby at Durrington Walls, bury their dead, honor their ancestors, and build large earthen monuments. Adjusting my seat real quick, it's probably going to squeak. Okay. A construction mystery. By the time that Stonehenge was rebuilt in its second stage, around 2500 BCE, such regional differences between east and west had disappeared. By then, Stonehenge was part of a zone of huge henges and stone circles that extended north to south from the valley of the River Thames across Salisbury Plain to the south coast. From far and wide, people came with their livestock to these henge complexes at Avebury, Marden, Knowlton, and Dorchester to gather and celebrate. Stonehenge was originally rebuilt on a massive scale with some 80 huge stones of sarsen, a type of silcrete or hardened sandstone. All but 2 of these were brought from 15 miles north of West Woods, where natural sarsens once covered the landscape. The heaviest of these weighed around 45 tons, though most of the upright monoliths are around 20 tons. Moving, dressing, and raising the sarsens required a lot of effort, more than 3 million man-hours, Over 10,000 hammerstones had to be brought in to dress or shape the stones. How the stones were erected with simple technology involving only ropes and wooden levers has long been a puzzle. Did the builders lift the lintels on wooden cradles, sliding them onto the uprights so that the mortise holes fit neatly into the uprights' protruding tenons? Or did they haul the lintels up temporary earthen ramps that have left no trace today? It has often been proposed that the stones were moved to Stonehenge on wooden rollers, but recent research reveals that rollers would have been prone to jamming. Far more effective would be to lay timbers, like railway tracks, in the direction of movement, so that the huge stones on their wooden sleds could slide along them. We know that this is how huge statues were moved in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. A place for equals? People did not live at Stonehenge itself, nor did they feast on site, since they left virtually no trash there. Instead, they lived at Durrington Walls, less than 2 miles away. This was a huge settlement, where as many as 4,000 people lived around 2500 BCE. Their densely packed square-plan houses had walls of wattle and daub, interwoven sticks covered in clay, and items of wooden furniture arranged around a plaster floor, in the center of which was the fireplace. The furniture consisted of wooden box beds, shelving, and boxes where food was stored. The houses were probably family homes, but they were not occupied for very long, perhaps as little as a decade. Huge quantities of pig and cattle bones reveal the feasting that went on there, most of it during the autumn and winter months on either side of the winter solstice. Although the size of a small town, Durrington Walls was only short-lived and mostly seasonal in its use. Its inhabitants were most likely the builders who constructed the impressive Sarsen stage of Stonehenge around 2500 BCE. Among Durrington Walls' architectural features were multiple timber circles, the southern circle and the northern circle, and an avenue leading to the river Avon and a path to Woodhenge. Like Stonehenge and its avenue, the southern circle and avenue are aligned on solstice directions, though in this case the opposite ones of midwinter sunrise and midsummer sunset. Woodhenge was, like Stonehenge, oriented on midsummer sunrise and midwinter sunset. At the center of the Durrington Walls settlement, a small group of houses seems to have been set apart from the rest. Although no bigger than the other houses, these special buildings had certain features that set them apart. While they had fireplaces like the other houses, their interiors were kept conspicuously clean. Perhaps these were sacred cult houses rather than ordinary dwellings. Elsewhere among the houses at Durrington Walls, some households appear to have done the cooking for their neighbors. Such differences hint at slight social distinctions in seniority and deference among those gathering to build Stonehenge. Yet there is no sign of any palatial buildings to suggest a hierarchical or class-based society like that of Pharaonic Egypt. Instead, the overall emphasis seems to have been to minimize hierarchy and difference. Perhaps this was why the circle was such an important architectural and monumental form, since it represents an arrangement in which all are equal. Moving megaliths also requires cooperation and collective action, so that everyone literally pulls together. Beneath the surface. This absence of hierarchy is also evident in the burials at Stonehenge and elsewhere in mainland Britain. The people buried at Stonehenge had few or no grave goods. The most significant of these is a single stone mace head that may have been a symbol of office. Burial at Stonehenge was largely reserved for adults, and these were mostly women. This is also the general pattern found for burials of this period, from 3400 to 2450 BCE, throughout mainland Britain, whether associated with monuments or otherwise. Perhaps women had an exalted social status at the time of Stonehenge. The selection of stone associated with the eternal dead and ancestors for building Stonehenge contrasts with the use of wood associated with the living for Durrington Walls' houses and timber circles. This reveals Stonehenge's overriding purpose as a collective monument for ancestors. A new culture. The huge complexes of Stonehenge and Durrington Walls are two of the more than 50 such ceremonial complexes in Great Britain and Ireland, many of them built or enlarged around 2500 BCE. 20 miles to the north, Avebury is the largest of the area's stone circles at over 1,000 feet in diameter, 3 times bigger than Stonehenge. We do not know when its stones were erected, but its henge bank was probably built at the same time as Stonehenge's sarsens were put up. Around 2460 BCE, a huge timber circle about 1,440 feet in diameter was erected around the periphery of the Durrington Walls settlement. This was closely followed by construction of the bank and ditch of a huge henge that, like Avebury, has its ditch on the inside of its bank, now considered the classic henge style. Yet the world of these people of Stonehenge was about to change. By 2400 BCE, metal-using migrants from Europe were settling in Britain and burying their dead with distinctive pots called beakers. Their ancestors originated in the Eurasian steppe, in the region of Ukraine and farther east, between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, and mixed with Europe's farmers as they migrated westward. On reaching Britain, the Beaker people appear to have kept themselves largely separate from the island's inhabitants. Within some 16 generations, though, their descendants had largely replaced the Neolithic population. Even so, the Beaker people in Britain still followed many of the old ways of their Neolithic predecessors, continuing the traditions of building henges and stone circles. The difference was that these monuments were much smaller than Neolithic monuments, requiring much less effort. No more did people labor in the thousands. They now worked only on construction projects that involved extended families or small groups of families. An enduring monument. People returned to Stonehenge to renovate it in another 3 stages of minor works until 1500 BCE. The illustrious dead were also laid to rest in the surrounding landscape in burial mounds that still dominate the horizon around Stonehenge. A special group of these mounds, constructed around 1900 BCE, covered the graves of prominent individuals equipped with regalia and ornaments of gold and other precious materials such as jet and amber. Stonehenge continued to be respected within this wider cemetery of mounds, surrounded by a precinct that separated it from the encroaching fields of Bronze Age farmers. After 1500 BCE, it seems that Stonehenge's days of glory were largely over, and its dramatic stones and surrounding burial mounds were left to the sheep and cattle of neighboring farms. Over the years, conservation workers have repaired leaning and falling stones, even securing lintels, enabling new generations to enjoy this Neolithic masterpiece. Making sure there's not everything after that. It's let's look at all of the goodies that this article brings us. First, we're going to look at Avebury. It says, for about 6 centuries, Avebury was altered as its use likely shifted with time. 2 avenues of stones linked it to other ceremonial sites nearby. So here is the entrance. Of course, this is what it looked like back then. There's like a regular town within the stone circle today. It's pretty cool. So I'm pretty sure that either this or this is the stone that I'm sitting on right here. I'm guessing. Because it was like high up on a hill and there was so much sheep poop everywhere. It was, I was trying to avoid it, but then I just gave up because it was everywhere. So let's see. There's the southern circle of 29 stones, the central obelisk, the northern circle of 27 stones here, and the outer ring. It says originally composed of about 100 stones, is the largest prehistoric stone circle in the world. Pretty great. Let's see what's happening over here. So let's see. It looks like a little slice. There's the entrance, embankment, present day ground level, because it was a big mound around it. Stones were variable in size and unshaped, unlike at Stonehenge. That's true, they're very lumpy. It says picks made of deer antlers were common digging tools used to break up chunks of chalk. Pretty cool. Yeah, Avebury was great to see. The Beaker folk. The burial of the Amesbury archer, which is down here, uncovered in 2002 near Amesbury village, a few miles from Stonehenge, is the richest Bronze Age grave ever uncovered in Britain. The archer likely came from Central Europe. His grave, dated to around 2400 BCE, contained 3 copper knives, 2 gold hair tresses, and bell-shaped beakers. A beaker, similar in form, shown up there, was found 250 miles to the north. The so-called Beaker people settled in Britain circa 2400 BCE. And it says these are from the British Museum and Scala, Florence. So I'm guessing that the archer down here is in the British Museum. Poor guy. And that this beaker is in the Scala in Florence. Very cool. Giants of southern England. The colossal monument complexes of Stonehenge, Durrington Walls, and Avebury changed over time, with bursts of collective labor during different periods. Construction activity was especially intense during a Neolithic building boom around 2500 BCE. Here's a little map. You can see there's Great Britain, there's Ireland, the British Isles. And there's a map here where you can see Avebury, Silbury Hill, Durrington Walls, Stonehenge, and Mount Pleasant. Let's see, it says Stonehenge. The circle is arranged to frame the sun's rays during the solstices. It began as a cemetery and contains more burials than any other Neolithic British cemetery of its time. Let's see right here, there's the stones. Winter solstice sunset coming in there. Summer solstice sunrise coming through here. There's the heel stone right there. More than 160 stones were erected at Stonehenge. Techniques borrowed from carpentry were used to lock the stones together and provided unprecedented strength and durability. You can see here how these, I'm trying to make sure the glare's not there, but it's so hard. These pages are so glossy. The rocks fitting on these little nubs up here, which I think you can see in my photograph. Kind of. Maybe not. Oh, kind of. You can see one right there. Bluestone average weight 2 tons. Holy moly. One smaller sarsen does not match the others. Some experts suggest the circle may have been damaged or incomplete. full stones 29 feet, up to 45 tons. It's a possible altar right there. The bluestones were regularly repositioned. Their exact position in 2500 BCE is unknown. Bluestones in the middle there, the iconic ones there, in the middle of the circle there. Here's Durrington Walls. Britain's biggest henge, 2 miles northeast from Stonehenge and thought to be home to its builders for about 10 years, is the largest known Neolithic settlement. Let's see, this is a football field to scale. Goodness, it's massive. So here's the town all around. There's, I'm guessing that's the Woodhenge. Oh no, that's Woodhenge over here. What's that? Timber monuments are often found in larger enclosures and may have been shrines or temples. This is just trees. Interesting. These may have been houses for key families or spirits. We don't know. This house is set aside from the rest. At the end of the settlement's use, its perimeter was encircled by a palisade of wooden posts, right here. Then later by a large henge. Where's B? A large henge. Or here. B, the ditch. Possibly in an effort to memorialize the site's history. Cool. So let's look at this area down here. They're highlighting this. Down here. 1,000 homes in the Neolithic settlement. Some 4,000 people came from near and far to work, trade, and feast during farming's off-seasons. So it says, bone fragments excavated. The black is human and white is animal. So Stonehenge, 5,000 bone fragments have been found, but you can see they're almost all human and barely any animals. But at Durrington Walls, there's been 80,000. They're almost all animal and barely any humans. Here's their little house. You can see the smoke coming out the top from the hearth here. Central hearth. Here's their bed. Chalk plaster over timber. Very clever. 5 by 5 meters. Woodhenge. Discovered in 1925, Woodhenge comprised 6 concentric circles of wooden posts, marked by the modern concrete pillars seen here. In the same way as Stonehenge, Woodhenge is aligned with the rising sun of the summer solstice. Down here is Seahenge. This is a famous one too. The ring that emerged from the waves. In 1998, an oval ring made up of 55 oak posts around a large inverted oak stump emerged from the sand on the Norfolk coast of eastern England. The timber posts were found to have been felled in 2049 BCE, 1 year later than the central trunk. Fast decaying timbers prompted rapid removal and are now at the Lynn Museum in Norfolk. What is this? Let's see. Depictions of daggers and axe heads were carved into the sarsen stones at Stonehenge during the Bronze Age. This may have functioned as symbolic offerings of these weapons. Wow, I didn't know there were carvings in Stonehenge. That's pretty neat. Here's the heel stone. This is glare driving me crazy, but there's literally nothing I can do about it. This sarsen block may have once been part of a pair. To an observer located in the center of the circle, the heel stone marks the point on the horizon where the sun appears at sunrise on the summer solstice. Here's how the great sarsens were raised. Using rope, wood, and stone, Neolithic builders raised Stonehenge's huge sandstone uprights and lintels. Let's look at these little captions first. It says, the work was both dangerous and labor-intensive. Entire families participated in the construction. The largest sarsen hammers could weigh as much as 65 pounds. Let's see this one. The workers used levers to gradually elevate the lintel, inserting wedges and timbers. They raised it little by little to the top the stones, going bit by bit until they get to the top there, to put it up there. They may have needed up to 1,000 hammers to work the larger stones. Goodness. Complex logistics. The design required meticulous planning to ensure the heights of the stones were even and there was enough room for the wooden supports and for workers. The carved interlocking stones at Stonehenge make it unique among Neolithic monuments. You can see the outer circle all linked together. It's pretty neat. The bluestones, they're out. The great trilithons. Yeah, pretty great, pretty great. Let's read all this down here. Building the circles. Finding sarsen stones. Some 15 to 20 miles from Stonehenge, the ground was littered with huge blocks of dense, hard sandstone known as sarsen. Just lifting it up. Sorry for my squeaky chair. Moving colossal weights. Wooden tracks may have been laid to reduce the friction of sleds bearing weights of up to 45 tons. They're pulling it there. Working the stones. The stones had to be turned so that all sides could be worked. The inner face was always the smoothest. Turning it. Erecting the megaliths. The stones were lowered into a sloping trench, and with levers, wedges, wood, and ropes gradually worked upright. I'm pulling it. Sorry for my tummy's rumbling. Preparing the top of the stones. Once upright, the stones were leveled by carving knob-like tenons, removing up to a ton of stone and lobbing off the top so that there's some round bits there. Fitting into place. Mortise holes were cut into the lintel to align with the tenons. The lintel was then slotted into place. So yes, stacking till it gets high enough and then boop. Pretty remarkable. Sun worshippers. When Stonehenge was in active use between its construction in the Neolithic period and when it was abandoned in the Bronze Age, many communities across Europe celebrated the power of the sun. They built monuments which, like Stonehenge, traced the path of the solar disk, and they manufactured objects from materials such as gold. Standing stones, stelae, and stone circles were used to create connections among earth, sky, people, and nature. So number 1 here, it says Sun Chariot, found in Trondheim, Denmark, made of gold and bronze, depicts the belief the sun was drawn by a divine horse across the sky circa 1400 BCE. That's so cool. I like that a lot. I've never seen anything like that. So this is a stela from Val Carmenica, Italy, engraved with a depiction of the sun shining on weapons, humans, and animals circa 2500 BCE. Can't really tell because it's in the crease of the magazine, but I believe them. Guessing that's the sun up there. I love this. That's the Nebra sky disk. It's pretty amazing. The Nebra sky disk, found in Germany, features the sun, moon, and stars on a bronze and gold disc, circa 1600 BCE. I think it was stolen at one point and recovered. Remarkable, because the stars are all pretty accurate too, from what I recall. Now look at this. Wild. That's so neat. Bronze hand and gold bracelets from Prell, Switzerland, decorated with symbols that may be solar. 1400 to 1500 BCE. These are so incredible. And this says sun necklace, question mark. This gold lunula from Blessington, Ireland dates to circa 2200 BCE. Its form and burnished surface were associated with sun or moon worship, and this is located in the British Museum in London. On the Preseli Hills. Oh gosh, Carn Godog. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Welsh and me don't get along. and other nearby rock outcrops in Wales have been identified by archaeologists as the origin of most of the bluestones of Stonehenge. The stones, which weigh less than 4 tons, were transported some 175 miles to the Salisbury Plain. And this is where Stonehenge began. Pretty incredible. Look at this down here, wizardry. This 14th century miniature, the oldest image of Stonehenge, shows the wizard Merlin from Arthurian legend building Stonehenge in the guise of a giant. I love that. That's so cool. And here's the summer solstice by the looks of it. Crowds gather to watch the summer solstice sunrise hit Stonehenge. The monument is also aligned with the winter solstice sunset. I'd love to be there someday at that event. The photograph shows cremated skeletal remains that were buried in one of the Aubrey holes, dating from the early phase of Stonehenge. It says enigmatic circles. Stonehenge is the best known and most elaborate stone circle in the British Isles, but there are hundreds of other similar monuments. Evidence from several late Neolithic sites, including many giant earth and wooden circles, suggests that people traveled long distances to participate in these collective building projects. Around this time, the Durrington Walls settlement and Woodhenge became part of the cultural landscape. By the end of the age, Stonehenge and its associated sites were part of a constellation of monumental landscapes that extended across the British Isles. It says Stonehenge in the 16th century. This is one of the oldest depictions of Stonehenge, and the first known to have been drawn on site. Well, it appears in a short description of England, Scotland, and Ireland by Lucas de Heer. It was drawn by the author and dated 1571 to 1576, and this is located in the British Library in London. Wow. Doesn't look too far off from today. I know some of that isn't still standing. Changing over time. Neolithic burial mounds, long predating Stonehenge, dot the landscape nearby. Stonehenge's earliest iteration, a circle of wooden posts and bluestones, was erected in 2900 BCE. Its present style came in 2500 BCE. There's a map here of the area. See, there's Stonehenge, Durrington Walls, and Woodhenge. Not far off, that way to Avebury and associated monuments. Monuments from the late Neolithic era. Stone circles are thought to have been places of assembly, worship, and burial. Henges are formed of a circular rampart enclosing a moat. They usually surround wooden or stone structures. Monumental earthworks are usually found near prominent enclosures. Palisades are fences made of timbers driven into the earth. Evolving styles. The earliest constructions are often burial mounds. By the late Neolithic, a mobile livestock raising society was undertaking larger projects. Look at this great map of all of the historic sites, the stone circles and such. A myriad of stone circles. Stone circles were built across the British Isles for millennia, and range from a few stones to complex structures consisting of more than 100. Stonehenge and Avebury units form the Stonehenge, Avebury, and Associated Sites World Heritage Site. You can see right here. Can you see right there? I hope so. We've got Marlborough Mound, Mardenhenge and Hatfield Barrow, Knowlton right there, Mount Pleasant. Gosh, look at all of them. The Druid Circle. I'm trying to find the ones that I've heard of. There's so many. Gosh, there's a bunch. Up here, don't forget, in the Shetland Islands, there's some as well. The Loch of Storm. The Ring of Brodgar is pretty cool. And the Orkneys. Callanish up there in the Hebrides. Newgrange is on my bucket list. I would love to see that, especially on a solstice. So many. My goodness, it says there are 2 main stone types at Stonehenge. 2 to 4 ton bluestones from 175 miles away in Wales, and 20 to 40 ton sarsens or sandstone sourced nearby. Pretty incredible. Possible route of the bluestones. Across here, down here. Wild. To this area. I hope you can see. Here we go. Some more pictures. Here's Newgrange. I think this is about Newgrange. Let's see. At one with the heavens. The sun and its movements marked the rhythm of daily life and ritual for early farming communities. This is evidenced in Great Britain and Ireland by 2 of their most emblematic monuments, the Stonehenge Sanctuary in southern England and the Newgrange Burial Mound in Ireland. Both constructions are designed to align with the sun during significant cosmic events. Predating the earliest megaliths erected at Stonehenge, Newgrange is a large passage tomb built around 3200 BCE. A 62-foot passageway runs from its entrance to the burial chamber, aligned so that the sun's rays stream down it to illuminate the main chamber at dawn on the winter solstice. This appears to symbolize rebirth and regeneration, and it reminded local communities of the cyclical nature of time, the movement of celestial bodies across the skies, and perhaps humanity's place in the cosmos. Yeah, there it is. I'd love to go here. It says Newgrange, a Neolithic burial mound in County Meath, Ireland, measures 279 feet in diameter. The facade, made of white quartz, granite boulders, and water-rolled pebbles, was excavated and reconstructed in the 1960s and 70s. Pretty great. Age-old attraction. This engraving shows Stonehenge from the west and from the south. Made in the 1660s, it was republished in the 1724 edition of Britannica Illustrata. Let's see this timeline down here. Europe's stone giants. 4500 BCE. The stone burial cairn at Barnenez, Brittany, so it's Barnenay, starts to take shape with 6 burial chambers. Numerous megalithic tombs are also being built in northwestern Spain and Portugal. 3700 to 3100 BCE. Burial mounds of West Kennet in England, Altendorf in Germany, and Newgrange in Ireland are raised. Multiple standing stone alignments in Brittany, such as Carnac, also date to this period. 2900 BCE, Stonehenge starts out as a cemetery with wooden posts and bluestones. Weighing up to 4 tons each, the bluestones are transported from quarries in Wales, 175 miles to the west. 2500 BCE. Stonehenge's 20 to 40 ton sarsen stones are erected, giving the monument its distinctive form. The settlement of Durrington Walls and other circles nearby add to the complex cultural landscape. 2200 BCE. Stonehenge's original bluestones are rearranged. Metalworking beaker people from Eastern Europe drive a trend for smaller circles and henges across Britain, undertaken by smaller family groups. To 1900 BCE, elite tombs, many filled with Bronze Age riches, are constructed around the monument. By 1500 BCE, Stonehenge is no longer used, but it remains standing as a mysterious reminder of a vanished age. Let's see what this is. It says this nice, I think is how you pronounce that, Gneis, nice, mace head from the early 3rd millennium BCE was found with a cremation burial at Stonehenge. It is one of the few grave goods discovered from a period where burials were modest. It's got a cool hole in it. And then think it's just the main page here. Yeah, this cool photograph. Stonehenge and sunset. An enduring enigma. In the past, Stonehenge was attributed to the Romans, the Danes, the Druids, and even a legendary medieval wizard. Archaeologists now know its original builders were Neolithic farmers who aligned it to face the winter and summer solstices. Part of a complex of monuments that extend across Great Britain and Ireland, Stonehenge is the principal structure in a large cultural landscape spanning millennia. Alright, that is it for tonight. This made me really sleepy. My eyes are so heavy. I hope it made you sleepy too. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you'd like to pick future History Magazine articles, you can click the join button right down there or the first link in the description box. I'd love to have you join. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good